Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Supernatural, The Raid. And they have been on a roll lately. These have been really good episodes that have really kind of worked together in fusing the filler aspect with advancing the main kind of season arc going forward. And it's just been really good lately, and this episode definitely continues that trend. So, what they've kind of done is been able to use more effective uses of flashbacks and not like in the case of Arrow where it's like years past, like effective uses of kind of taking us back to certain points and showing us bits of the story in ways that kind of like get us up to speed and everything. So this starts out with the whole argument with Mary, Dean, and Sam, and kind of going into more depth about what kind of was going on with that. Kind of Dean being pissed off that she would go to the British Men of Letters and everything, and saying that she should be on their side because of all the crap that they've gone through, and she's still trying to catch up from like all the decades that she's been dead and everything. And kind of seeing Dean kind of pull that kind of stuff on her and be his usual Dean self, which can sometimes be a dick, and talking about like calling her Mary instead of Mom because she pretty much threw that they're not children anymore. And that's kind of not really the aspect that they're going for, I think. I mean, yeah, there's the adjustment period of them having to deal with, hey, this is the mom who's been gone their whole lives and kind of getting reacquainted and everything, but they've never really kind of been like, hey, Mom, I want you to do these mom things for me. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, oh crap, but see, that's the thing. She's got so many Dean tendencies that she kind of throws that back at Dean, and that's kind of where they get their signals mixed up and that they butt heads that way. And it was really good to kind of see that because even though it's kind of a hard conflict, it's stuff that has to be dealt with. And seeing it done in this way works pretty well because we get the kind of root of the conflict down because Mary just wants to be the best hunter that she can be, get back in the game and get adjusted to life because she's still going through that adjustment period. Dean's like, no, you need to space away from us and everything. And it's like, no, I mean, you try being dead for 30 years and coming back and not having cell phones and computer and internet and learning all this stuff about angels, demons, God, the darkness, everything. And it's like, yeah, she needs to process and everything. Of course, Sam understood that, but yet her going to the British Men of Letters who had tortured him and messed with him, he was still kind of pissed on himself. So that's kind of where we leave him off, and then we get to like 3 days later and seeing like Ketch and Mary come up to this kind of compound. It's like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And Ketch congratulating her on a good, well done job that this little beauty worked out great, which then an effective flashback shows the AVD that was like going off. Because that was the acronym, and we didn't get to it a little later, that it was an anti-vampire device. And it worked pretty interestingly. It did some kind of like spray effect, and we saw the vampire go down. And he's like, hey, we didn't even have to lift a finger. So they kind of go in. Ketch acts like an asshole and I say politely orders this one woman to like take his stuff to the armory, clean and everything. He's like, I got 3 PhDs. Oh, that's lovely, darling. And then walks away. And it was kind of interesting to get that for that one character, even though as we see throughout the rest of the episode, these characters are introduced. Like, you can definitely tell, oh, you're red shirt, you're gonna die. So we get to see this kind of like whole compound setup that they got, and it's interesting to see that it's like all modular and kind of like very kind of temporary, but still being able to be kind of a defensible position, that this is what the Men of Letters from the British side can really effectively do. And it's like, okay. And we see that Mary had gone into her room and was like looking at her phone and trying to get Dean to talk to her through text and all that, and seeing that Dean hasn't been. So then we see that the brothers are kind of like chilling at the bunker, and Dean is like, hey, look, we might have a case. This dude's throat was slit and everything. And it's like, I just think it was just a drug dealer dude and everything. It's like, he had this coming. It's not a case. It's like, oh, find me a case because I need to punch something. It's like, he's trying to like get Dean to understand their mom's side and everything. And he's like, I'm getting kind of pissed off with this kind of peacekeeper kind of shtick that you've been doing. First you did it with Cass, now you're doing it with Mom. Pick a side. And like, Sam's kind of pissed off at that because he's usually the one in the situation more times than not. I mean, there has been times that Dean's had to be the one to go into and try and peacekeep. But he's always tried to balance like the sides because Dean's usually the one that sets off a situation that's like, whoa, 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 listen, we gotta make sure that overreactions don't happen. And seeing Sam kind of get fed up with this and be like, alright, fine then, I'll have to think about this. And then of course getting a text from Mary saying that it's urgent, and then he goes, meets her at the compound, driving a Mustang, and it's like, yes, so much. I love when they bring that kind of stuff in, and it's like, since it originally was going to be a Mustang that the boys drive, and just seeing that kind of little stuff just really kind of works since we're 12 seasons in. So he gets there, Mary's like, yeah, I screwed up, but I want to show you what we're doing and what I believe that they can make a monster-free world. Granted, you've chosen this life for a reason, but we can make a world where we don't have to hunt anymore. And it's like, okay, I understand you're trying to go for this world, but what we have learned throughout these seasons is that not everything is as it appears. Yes, some people might be considered monsters. They could be vampires, werewolves, all this kind of stuff. That does not mean they are inherently evil or do bad things. This is kind of where I hope that it'll be taken at some point, because that's going to be the crux of the argument. Is it better to try and eliminate them all to stop the bad ones, or is it better to be in the situation of Sam and Dean and hunt the bad ones when they pop up? That's a really good argument, and I hope that it's kind of brought up more. Because we see Mary and Sam kind of like going through and it's like, oh yeah, they're kind of like roughing it. It's like, holy crap, taking Sam into the operations center, and we're seeing Meg like, oh, I didn't know that your son would be brought in. It's like, I didn't think I had to tell you or whatnot. And before then, we had seen Meg talking to Ketch about how the old boys over in London want Sam and Dean on, but Ketch is like, we've got the Winchester that matters. It's like, well, they kind of want Sam and Dean on, so we got to try our hardest. So we see Mick kind of putting that forward and trying to like show him everything. And that's like, oh, it's great that you're here because we're doing a briefing and everything. So they start briefing him on what was going on and that there's this anti-vampire initiative that they're doing in the Midwest, that across 12 states they had over 200 vampires, and that they've gotten it down to 11 who are now hiding out in this hotel that is kind of fortified, and they're kind of getting ready to go for it. And Sam's like, holy crap, that's a pretty big deal. And talking about how their R&D and the hunter that they brought on really could do this, and that they can exterminate all the vampires in America. It's like, wow. And while we're seeing this happen, we also see Ketch is trying to do his own thing and getting Dean onto his side by bringing, of course, rare scotch. I would have thought that, yeah, there's three ways to Dean's heart. Booze, burgers, and pie. And any combination of those three would have been, like, if he was really trying to get Dean on his side, he would have been like, okay, I got this scotch, I know a burger place that's got pie. That's how you do it. But see, Ketch is more of the kind of like Bond guy, so it would make sense for him to do this scotch. It's like, okay. So then we get to see them kind of like talking, and this is where it starts bringing up some interesting stuff of how Ketch views Dean and talking about how we're both killers. I am useful to the Men in Letters because I'm a killer. You give me something to trap, to hunt, to go after, I'm good. While they sit and do all their stuff, but you and me, we need something to do. We need that. That is why we're so similar. It's like, but I don't, it's like, yes, Dean has more the tendency to go after the kill than Sam does in certain instances, but we've seen that isn't always the case, with Dean not killing Benny and hitting Benny at a purgatory and all that. That showed in marked change, because Sam was usually the one who's like, listen, we gotta see what is going on with this creature or whatnot, because they could have some humanity in them and actually not be a dick, as was the case with Benny. He was just a vampire. He was a really cool guy, and of course bad things happen, and he ended up going back to purgatory, having to sacrifice himself. And it's just like, yeah, Dean kills creatures and everything, but that's not all he does. I mean, sometimes it's his first kind of instinct to go after, but he doesn't do it all the time. He only recently got that kind of bloodlust from the Mark of Cain, and that was because of the Mark, not because of him. So it was interesting, and then of course he threw the bait of, oh, okay, well I got places to go, vampires to behead, and that kind of perked his interest. And oh, you got some lines on vamps? Yep, why don't you come with me? So they go off to go to the vampires, and before we had seen this, we had seen that the vampires, one was consoling a woman vampire whose nest was taken out, and as they were kind of talking about what to do, the Alpha shows up. It's like, oh crap. Because he's a pretty big player, and it's important to see what's going to be happening with him. So they get to the hotel, and they find it's completely deserted. And they only see that the woman vampire is left, who is trying to hide in the corpses, and we see Ketch pretty much going at her, torturing her, beating her up to get information. Dean's like, well, hold on, just tell us what we want to know, I'll make it quick. It's like, well, they went to attack you guys, the hunters. It's like, holy crap. And then we see that the one guard dude that we saw in the beginning was taken out, and the vampires start storming after the British Mentilators base. And they're like, okay, we need to lock this down and get everything set up. And they kind of do it, but we have some cool fight scenes with, like, Sam and Mary taking out one of the vampires that had gotten in, but keeping one of them and getting it locked up and kind of getting information from him. He's like, well, the Alpha's here, our father's here, we're taking you out. And of course, Mary gets kind of fed up with him and chops his head off, and like, Serena, the one woman that Ketch had given his equipment to, was like, oh, he's in Morocco. He's been there for like a decade. And Sam's like, that is wrong. I saw him like 5 years ago. And it's like, okay, so your information isn't all-encompassing. So they still have a good number about the vampires going around. They got everything locked down, so they come up with a plan that, okay, we've got the Alpha probably in here. They pull all their weapons together. They're like, we don't have really a lot of weapons to take them out. And then Mary's like, well, we need to bring it out. And Nick, of course, brings out the cult. And Sam's like, I haven't seen this in years. What's going on here? And Mary comes clean about the lake house, and that she was there to steal that from Ramayel. And he's like, okay, this could work. And Nick's like, well, it's useless. We don't have any bullets. And I was like, well, I got a recipe from, Bobby Singer. And they come up with the plan. They need that. They need the anti-vampire device from the armory to kind of like gas the rest of the vampires so that way they got a better chance of taking out the Alpha. So Mary and Pierce, the hunter dude, go off to the armory, and Sam was going with them as well, but he had to fend off 2 other vampires, and they get the bullets all together and everything, and they hear banging on the door into the inner ops room. And of course, the R&D dude opens it up, and the hunter comes in, and the Alpha kills him. And we find out that the hunter has been working with the Alpha. He pays him and leaves everything alone. And of course, he is very protective of his children. And he's like, oh, don't worry. What happens here is you'll get on the horn with your superiors, tell them to call off all this, call off the invasion of America. And it's funny because he brought up, like, why didn't you do anything in England? Well, because it's England. America, though, is my home. And he tells him to get off his lawn. And granted, it's like, oh, he's a really old guy telling people to get off his lawn. But he does it in such a menacing and effective manner that it's like, yeah, you would think it would be kind of funny, haha. It's not. Because he's like, well, now you're going to tell him to call it off, and I'm going to devour you on live video stream for them. And it's like, yep, that's the Alpha. So, of course, Sam's able to kind of like figure out what's going on, finds Mary because she'd been knocked out by Pierce, and the device, the anti-vampire device, was destroyed. So they get in there. Sam's able to get the cult, and they're kind of in this like stuck situation because Mick's got the bullet, and they're kind of like talking at this point to try and get everything to a resolution. And of course, Dean and Ketch are on their way, but they don't get really much else to do other than that because Sam tried to make a deal with the Alpha to just let him and Mary go, and of course, sacrifice Mick and the Men of Letters. And Mick, of course, uses that opportunity to slip the bullet to Sam, and of course the Alpha's trying to play, that thing won't kill me. He's like, you sure I don't have any bullets? And then seeing him go through the flashback and everything, we're like, oh crap. And then Sam shoots him in the head, and we see it kind of work through, and the Alpha's dead. This is a big thing. This is a big leader of a monster group, the Progenitor, killed. That is a big victory for them. But, of course, Mick, after the fact, once Dean and Ketch catch up, and everybody's kind of like together, Mick's like, we got caught with our pants down. I didn't know what to do. And Sam's like, well, this was a big victory. I'm in. And it's like, oh crap. And he's like, what about Dean? Well, let me work on him. And of course, Dean and Mary make up, and Ketch was talking about like, well, I needed to be here. You and your ivory towers, you don't see this stuff, everything that's on the ground and all that. It's like, yeah. It just shows the divide, because granted, you might say that the British men of letters know what they're doing, but they still need the men of letters for the research portion and the hunters. That's what makes Sam and Dean so effective. Granted, they both know how to fight, but Sam's usually the research arm. Dean is like, you point him and he gets shit done. That's what Mick and the rest of the head honchos don't understand. And yes, their main goal was to get Sam and Dean on board, because where they go, the American hunters should go. So it'll be interesting to see where this kind of goes going forward, since they've got 2 Winchesters now. Dean will probably go into the fold. How that'll affect their operations, how they'll be used going forward against maybe Lucifer and the Nephilim and all that kind of thing, because, yeah, they've pretty much made England a safe spot from, like, monsters and all that. But that's one part of the world. Do they know of any other devices that will work against angels, demons, Nephilim, all that kind of stuff? Have they gone against those, or do they just have theories? That's the kind of stuff that I'm looking forward to seeing going forward. And from the last couple episodes, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be doing more effective reveals and more effective fusion of getting the arc to go forward, while also giving us kind of filler stuff, monster of the week, kind of story of the week stuff. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.